Dear women in aviation and logistics, dear ladies beyond flying, happy International Women's Day. Today is a very special day for you, but also for me. My name is Daniel Stecher, Vice President Airline Operations IBS Software, because today we have a very, very special edition of our monthly Aviation Women panel. We do this together with our friends from Women in Aviation and Logistics. We want to break the bias together today. And we have today, in fact, 4 speakers, but we also want you to be involved in this session. So we want to really encourage that during the presentation of 4 of us, that if you have questions, either you raise your voice. I will act again as a moderator, like in the Aviation Women panel, but you can also post your questions in the chat feature of MS Teams. And so everybody is highly invited to be active here in this panel. It will be around about 60 minutes, and might be that the Q&A is at the end, but we really want you to be at any time of the presentation involved. So together with me, we have Emma Murray. She is CEO and founder of Meantime Communications. We have Céline Hogarth, Managing Director of Change Horizon, and Justina Messier, who is Senior Consultant at Change Horizon, and who is, by the way, also my mentee, because I'm a proud mentor of Women in Aviation and Logistics Mentorship Program, which will be also part of the presentation later today. So let's kick off with some words about Ladies Beyond Flying. So we started this journey 8 July 2020 as part of an operations event from IBS Software, Virtual Ops 2020. We had 3 Aviation Women panel, and we continue our very inspiring and motivating Aviation Women panel from that season. And meanwhile, we are preparing our 21st Aviation Women panel next month. And we have now already achieved a membership of 615 till date of men, a few men, a lot of women. And that shows also that we are a very inclusive community. So we really want to encourage everybody who is willing to empower women from the aviation industry to be part of this very thrilling and inspiring group, because we really want to foster the diversity and inclusion. So that's why we are not a women-only community. My role is there, the technical facilitator and the moderator of the Aviation Women panel. And we want to really promote and empower and share the knowledge amongst all the ladies in this group, because it's also a talent pool. We also help each other finding jobs or helping each other also if there are some daily issues or know-how transfer is required. So we have also created some subgroups on sustainability, for example, or NDC or other technology topics. And we want to really build a global network. So my personal goal is that we will achieve soon the 1,000 members in this community. And yeah, it's really, for me, inspiring now to be part of this panel, because I was so bold to apply to be a mentor in Women in Aviation and Logistics. And interestingly, my application was positively scanned or proven. And that's how I got to know Céline and Emma and Justina. And so now I hand over the voice to the Women in Aviation Logistics colleagues. Is it Selina or Emma?
Yeah. Thank you, Daniel. So my name is Céline Hogarth, and I'm the Managing Director of Change Horizon. It's a consulting company that is based in Switzerland. I'm working with Justina, who is going to introduce herself very soon. And last year, so just a year ago, with Emma, and you'll hear about Emma. So she's the founder and CEO of Meantime Communication, so PR agency in our sector. So together with Emma last year, during the International Women's Day, we launched the Women in Aviation and Logistics initiative. And WAL, as we call it, is really about driving positive change, aiming at achieving gender equality within our sector, and we know we can't do it all. It's a small initiative. We are focusing on making the change that can have an impact, and small changes, we believe, can make great impacts. So what we tried to do last year when we launched Women in Aviation and Logistics movement is to say, we have a lack of women in this industry, or lack of visible women. So you'll hear, if you haven't heard me about that already, you'll hear me talking about representation matters. And I really feel that we have a lot of women already in the industry, but they are not visible enough in the media, in the leadership, in boards of every type of groups, and also in the industry events, in the conferences, whether they are online or in person. That was really the starting point of WAL last year. So we were all, locked down and attending webinars and stuff that we saw, Emma and I, at various industry events, in-person events, that there are not a lot of women speaking on stage, not even a lot of women attending the conferences. We saw that it was continuing, perpetuating on the virtual world with all the webinars. And one of the really one of the main events is that webinar that was organized by a startup accelerator in Europe with lots of new CEOs and startup founders, etc., in our industry, talking about the future, talking about their great ideas, and there was no women on that. And it was a virtual event with more than 20 speakers, not a single woman. So all what we heard and we saw the past 10, 15 years, we heard that it was all about, history. It was the heritage from an old boys club culture, and it would change over time. But that event showed that if there is not something done proactively, change is going to take too long. So we wanted to do something about that, and that's exactly what WAL is all about. It's not putting fingers on something that is not going well and complaining. It's about proposing solutions, pragmatic approach to change something. So Women in Aviation and Logistics, it's about raising awareness of all the achievements from great female in the industry. It's about proposing a free online searchable database of women experts in every topic that are discussed within our industry, whether it's dangerous goods, whether it's e-commerce, it's pharmaceutical logistics, it's advocacy, it's sustainability, it's finance, etc. Any type of topic that we are discussing in the press, in conferences, etc., we have women also that can share their views and that can share their expertise, and we want to hear from them. But most of the event organizers and also the media are using the network that they know already. So the goal of WAL with that database is to encourage, the more women that are willing to contribute and make their voice heard, to submit their profile in the database so that they can be considered to speak, to join boards, to join industry awards, juries, to contribute to article and respond to the media, etc. And it works.
Just a quick one to complement what Céline is saying, and what she's talking there about the different areas of expertise with these women. So my experience of being invited as a woman on a panel was always to be on a women's panel to talk about being a woman. No one was ever asking me about communications or my input on the industry. It was about being a woman. So what we wanted to do is say, no, what we want is these women role models. We want to celebrate them and give them a platform to talk about what they know about. So that what we want is to encourage a culture where it's normal to see these people and understand that they have a great career in logistics. That means there's a great career for you in logistics, regardless of your gender. And to just take a step away from simply inviting somebody on a panel because they're a woman to talk about a woman. You can't think of any other situation where that would be of any interest.
So apart from today, where it's Women's Day, it's true that what we want is to push women to be on stage, not to talk about their gender, but to talk about their expertise and share their views. So that's what we started. It's already successful. We have more than 40 women in the database, and it's already being used by media, by jury of by industry awards organizers, by event organizers. We can see the momentum growing. So really this year, we want to encourage more women to submit their profile so that that database is growing as well, and we can really have a diverse database open for event organizers, any company and media. We also launched a mentoring program, and Emma will talk about that. And today, what we wanted, something that we preach is we can't do it, all. It's not siloed. Progress and positive change requires collaboration. It requires partnership. We are very happy to be here with Ladies Beyond Flying, and we want to share and push that agenda with the entire community. And today the theme is breaking the bias. So we wanted to have that opportunity to talk about that, and I'm happy to introduce you to Justina, who is going to go through breaking the bias. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Justina, I'm Lithuanian. I'm working for Céline at Change Horizon. We're supporting companies in their sustainable transformation journey. And although I have been working in aviation industry for over 10 years, it's a learning process every day. And as a woman today, I have to say that this topic really touches me a lot. So I will be speaking from the heart as well. And whenever you have anything to add or a question to ask, please feel free to stop me anytime, okay? So today we are celebrating the International Women's Day, and this day is calling for the action to break the bias that women face at work and elsewhere. So why not take a look at what these biases are, how we can challenge them, and how we can celebrate the uniqueness of each person and do it without preconceived judgment. So biases are two types. There are two types of biases. Ones that are expressed consciously, that are often as a prejudice or a discrimination against a certain group, and people usually are aware of it. So as an example that I actually had to witness in my career is when someone said, oh, I'm not going to hire this woman because she has small children and she's not going to be able to commit to the project and deliver. That's conscious bias and said consciously with an intention and meaning it. But today, let's take a look at unconscious bias, which are more about stereotypes that affect us and the judgment that we make without realizing it. So what are the most common unconscious bias? There are so many of them, but today let's take a look at 8 that are affecting how we behave against each other at work. Gender bias is one of the most common ones at workplace. For example, a male candidate is hired because he's supposedly more physically capable in a physically demanding role, or a let's say a senior woman is asked to take notes at a meeting where there are lots of more junior males. So gender bias can also affect the way job descriptions are written, and that can discourage women from applying. Affinity bias is a bias when we show preference for people who are similar to us. So that could be ethnicity, could be hobbies, could be our experiences. And at work, that would mean that we may show preference to someone that we relate to. We have the same characteristics, experiences, and we may pick the person that is maybe not the right one for the role and not the most talented one for the role. Attribution bias is when we tend to attribute our successes to our skills and our failures to anything that is outside of our control. And when we'll talk about the others, we tend to attribute their success to luck or their failures to lack of ability. And this can actually cause unfairness in appraisals. This can cause unfairness in hirings. Beauty bias is self-explanatory. It's when we judge someone based on their looks. Confirmation bias is a tendency to look for evidence that backs up our initial understanding of someone. So if we already know that we like someone, or we don't like someone, or we have let's say an idea of someone, we don't want to look at anything else that contradicts it. Contrast effect is actually a normal tendency for us to categorize people or ideas to just be able to understand them better. And that means that we end up comparing people against each other and not looking at their individual unique, let's say, unique features. Halo and horn effect, that's an interesting one for me. Halo is when we like something about someone so strongly that we overlook anything else around them when judging them. And the horn effect is when we hate something about someone so much that anything good they do, anything they achieve is just very hard to notice anymore. This one I kept separately. It's a proximity bias. I think it's a very important one today when we are starting to go back to the offices as COVID pandemic is, or the restrictions of COVID pandemic are easing. And some of us are actually not going back to the office. So a recent survey showed that executives or leaders are worried that the fact that people may not be going back to the office will create proximity bias, meaning that people who are present at the office will get ahead faster, and those that will be staying at home or somewhere else will be left behind. And what is really crazy to me to see is that those same leaders are more likely to prefer to go back to the office, creating an expectation of face time. And that's really tough because, you know, if you have one person who is staying at home, that creates an obligation in a way for the rest of the people present in the office to go on a Zoom call, for example. Or how about an email thread that started after a chat over a coffee at a cafeteria? And it's very easy to forget someone who is very important, probably, but is not in the office and was just, it happened not to be there to have coffee with these people. So proximity bias, I think, is a very important one right now. And as women and minorities tend to prefer to stay at home more than men, it's a very tough one for them because it adds up to all the other biases that women are facing.
Christina, we have a very good question.
Yes.
If you can go back to the 8 bias you were showing, there's a question from Mariana Rodriguez, whether they are typical unconscious bias in the aviation industry specifically? And that's, of course, a question now maybe to the entire audience. Do you see from these 8 the one or the other more prevailing in the aviation industry? Are they all, let's say,
I would say my experience,
same share across the industry?
My experience is of about 27 years of working with the aviation and logistics industry. That gender bias would be the biggest one there. But I've always found that a bit of a contradiction with our industry, because it is a case that there are fewer women, but at the same time, I've always found that as an industry, it can be really supportive of women. And certainly 20 years ago, when there were other industries like banking that my friends were in, where there wasn't a hope in hell that they would get forward, I was being supported and pushed forward. So it's always been a bit of a contradiction to me that with our industry. It's maybe something where we need to talk about it a bit more, so that we can encourage and celebrate the good behaviour, of which there is lots, let's face it, and kind of move away from that panel of old guys talking about the good old times, of which I'm sure there were many, but I don't think they even represent themselves properly in that instance, actually, because lots of those good old guys gave me definitely a push in my career and supported me at the beginning. So we need to kind of recognise it where it happens and then celebrate the good bits about the industry. That's my belief.
My take on that would be that those biases in the workplace are happening at every single industry. So I would not make it specific to aviation or logistics. In the pure air cargo sector, so that niche part, I think we have that affinity bias also quite heavy, also because it's a small world where everybody knows everyone, which makes it so great and so welcoming. But it's also, the other side of the coin is also the affinity bias that could be detrimental, at some point. So I would say that in this niche market or niche world of air cargo, which is great and I love, the affinity bias is probably quite a thing, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I agree. And in a minute, I'll show you how it affects women specifically. So if you go ahead, it is said that 73% of women experience bias at work, but only 1/3 of workers are able to recognize bias when they see it. So whether it's deliberate or unconscious, bias makes it harder for women to get hired, to get promoted, and negatively impacts their day-to-day work experience. This hurts women and makes it difficult for companies to level the playing field. So what are the unconscious biases that women face the most? Again, these are 6 ones. I could name many more, but I think these ones are quite strong ones to discuss today. And please jump in if you are experiencing something else and you would like to add on. So likability bias is the expectation for women to be kind and communal and not as assertive as men at work. So imagine if a woman is acting assertively, she is considered as bossy, as aggressive, but not as a leader. At the same time, if a man is acting assertively, he is considered to be more as a strong leader, and it's acceptable, it's more expected. Performance bias is a tough one for me, really, because I really associate myself with it. It's when women have to accomplish much more than men just to show that they're equally as competent as men, because men's achievements are more valued than women. Maternal bias.
Interestingly, it's called the Peter principle and not the Petra principle. So that's interestingly the contradiction that men are always promoted, even not being good performers, and women always have to overachieve in order to be recognized.
Yes, and especially when, you know, the evaluation of performance is not very clearly structured, there's a gray zone, and it's based on gut feelings, then it's really tough for women. I find that then men have just so much more power in that. Maternal bias is self-explanatory. It's people supposing that women who have children are less committed to their careers, to their work, to their project, and are less competent.
But what is not true, because it's not committed is less flexible.
We can say that. We can also say that. But the bias is, you know, unfortunately, is something that we're not aware of.
Yeah, but I can be fully committed. I can be fully committed to something, but let's say I have to take care of my parents, or I have sick children and so on. That's something which is beyond my control. So that's why I would not call it non-committed. I would rather say not flexible.
Attribution bias is linked to performance bias very strongly. So we tend to think that women are less competent. We tend to recognize their achievement less, and we are actually more likely to blame them for their mistakes. Affinity bias is what we discussed before, and what Céline was telling us about the air cargo industry. It's, you know, when leadership is still a lot of white male who are gravitating towards people like them, so more white male, who are, you know, having the same hobbies, the same type of interests. And when they are in leadership positions, they're more likely to hire people like them, so more white male. Intersectionality is a powerful one. It's also called double discrimination, and it happens when women face bias also because of their race or sexual orientation. So, for example, white women get more support from managers, they get ahead faster than women of color or women who are gay. So
there's a question from Fatima. Fatima, you want to ask the question verbally, or you want me to know you, please?
Well, as you wish. I can also ask it verbally,
yes,
no problem at all, of course. My question is, since there are so many bias towards women, I would also like to understand, based on your experience and what you have been seeing, the fact that the older woman or a younger woman, does it have a big difference in terms of, you know, discrimination or favoring for being more evaluated in their task, you know, giving more support if they are getting older or if they're too young? Because I think there is two situations, sometimes because they are too young or sometimes because they are too old already. So this is the question that I have, because I feel that there is also some discrimination in not only in the aviation industry, but I think everywhere. And that was my comment here.
I fully agree.
Yes. Sorry, I was going to say I'm going to answer this one just because I was once 20 in the industry and now I'm definitely not anymore. So I would say that for me, I think that kind of bias is more of an issue that affects everybody. I think I'm not convinced that's just a female thing. I think that's very dependent on who you've got in your management team. And, you know, sometimes you get a management team where they're not willing to embrace young people. You know, for me, it's a bit of a passion to push young people into the industry and get them noticed. But I think that on the other hand, you can get a situation where, you know, the management team or the person that you're dealing with just thinks you don't get it and you're over the hill. Also accelerated by the fact that we've had things like social media and new tech and all of this stuff, which apparently, you know, us old birds don't understand or whatever it is. So I think there's kind of that may be an issue. But I don't think it's, in my opinion, that's not simply just for women. That's kind of another issue that we need to address. And it's interesting that you bring it up, because whilst we're doing this, we've called this a movement for change for women and addressing gender bias. Obviously, we're viewing this in a sustainable business model. We want to achieve sustainable business models for all businesses, people, planet, profit, right, where we have the right mix of gender, the right mix of nationalities, the right age group mixes. For us, this should be just the start of something something. It should be an example of how we can make a difference in one small part of that. And so I would say age would be another interesting thing to look at.
Yeah, I agree. Yes.
Leslie, you raised your hand.
Yes, I mean, I totally agree with what's just been said. From my point of view, ageism, I think, is a problem. I said it's getting the right mix. Often you might have somebody who's a lot older but have got the experience, but then you've got the youth but need that experience. But so you need to have the right mix in the industry. And ageism, it doesn't matter whether you're what gender you are, it is an issue, I think, even now. And I've seen it through people that have come into the industry and trying to get positions with the industry, and they struggle, but they've got all the experience and they're perfectly capable to do that job. So I think we need to look, beyond this as well, but look at the whole picture.
Aditi, you made a very nice comment here in the chat notes. Do you also want to raise this verbally?
Oh, what about the how do we encourage the youth of today and basically generations as a general into the industry? At the moment, there really isn't anything to encourage the talent to come into the industry, and that's something that we need to do. We need to go to the colleges, we need to go to the universities, we need to show them how fantastic our industry is and what we can offer to them, not only from a logistics point of view, but from a digitalization point of view, but also from the air cargo transport right away across the globe. It's such a fantastic industry that nobody really knows anything about it. It's only often when you fall into the industry that's when you find actually how vast, how big.
Leslie, you know me, this is something that's really, really close to my heart, and I've done some work with one of the shows that we helped to organise in the UK called Multimodal, where we've dedicated an entire day at the show to just focusing on attracting employers to explain how they can take part in apprenticeship schemes, but then also putting young people onto the stage and inviting other young people to listen to them. And what started off as the day that people aren't going to bother turning up to see has now become the day that everyone wants to come and see, because there's a massive skills shortage, of course. The kids are out there wanting to find out more. And I can give you my own personal example, because my 17-year-old will this evening, as he was yesterday, be applying with me for an apprenticeship in logistics to be a freight forwarder. And that happened because he was able to speak to one of these young freight forwarders that we put on the stage, who chatted to him for 20 minutes, half an hour. When he went back to his school, by the way, and said, I think what I'd like to do is not apply for university. I would like to apply for logistics apprenticeship. They were what's one of those?
Yeah.
So it's like it's a universal problem. He's lucky he's got someone who knows, but I think that little example shows you that if you can put it in front of someone who's trying to make a career choice, and it's one of their peers that's talking to them, it just makes all the difference, doesn't it? Yeah, and those are the sort of things that we should be encouraging, and we should really be encouraging events organisers as well as putting women on the stage. I would love to encourage them to actually put more young people on the stage. We've just done this mentorship scheme, which some of you are involved in. It would be fantastic to hear from those ladies, why they're in the industry, what they like about it, what they've got out of the scheme, just to get the voices heard.
Yeah.
So again, representation matters. We need to have role models, young women, all diversity type of workforce that are on stage, that are visible, so that it's also a welcoming message to all talents to join.
And let me try to get Aditi from Indigo Airlines on stage. Aditi, you have a quite interesting comment about the combination of these biases you experienced in the past already.
Yeah, so I was wondering, and I was reading about it, and I was hearing all the things that the wonderful ladies have been talking about. I think a lot of it, like they mentioned about the maternal biases and the biases that gets in place with respect to the availability of the person or the flexibility that everyone goes through. I think a lot of it is then mistaken for a non-performer as well. However, the task may be getting done, but as much as somebody being at work in front of people getting the task done versus someone who's having to manage their work life, subsequently having to deal with their home chores and having to deal with their parents aging and taking care of them and all of that, and still managing to perform the same level, I think the bias still comes in that they may not be giving as much time or they may not be giving as much energy and thought into what they're doing. So I really feel that it should be taken completely as two different aspects, and people should just evaluate based on performance rather than the real availability or the flexibility that someone can use or may not be able to use subsequently.
Absolutely. That's the new leadership. Huh? The old leadership is the old way is to look at the hours that you are putting, and new leadership is to empower people, trust them, and look at the results and the performance. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the other way is how we were talking about giving the respective opportunities to some of these females. I think Daniel has been doing a great job at that, wherein at different forums or different platforms, he encourages some of us to talk or some of us to represent the airline or represent the industry in different ways, and even forums like these. And I think that's something, if most of us try in our own respective areas, however we can, I think that itself will give a push to a lot of other females.
Let me try to push Maria Paulina now on stage. You made an interesting comment about bias towards people. Do you like to elaborate a little bit about it? Because you are talking about vacation planning, late hours, and working requirements. So what do you mean with that?
Well, not all of us are blessed with kids, for example, but it doesn't mean I am speaking about maternal bias as well. There's in some of my experience in the industry and in the different companies that I work with, when there is the other side of the medal about the maternal bias. What happens when someone that doesn't have kids has another kind of responsibility, a sick member of the family, or someone that needs some support. You have other responsibilities than having children as well. Nevertheless, there are some bias and say, oh, this person has no children, so we can easily assign these people late working hours on is the last person that can select the vacation days because she or he doesn't have the limitation of the vacation, the school vacation, for example. Did you ever have to experience such bias as well in your life?
Well, I can only speak that what we call bias in the aviation industry could be also called seniority principle, because every pilot who is joining the airline freshly is always the last to get his duties. Yeah, and we were talking earlier on how to empower young people within the industry.
Exactly.
I believe the airline industry, especially, is not empowering young people. It's all, let's say, the long-lasting pilots and cabin crew members get the best flights and so on. So it's not the bias; it's a rule even within the industry.
Yes.
And I think it's causing big inflexibility in some parts of the world, for example.
So yes, I think that we should speak about those kind of limitations as well in the industry, and more in our industry, because we have to work in different kind of shifts depending on the service that we work for. And what happens with those people with like me? I was not blessed with children, but that doesn't mean that I don't have other responsibilities with my family. And when I was younger, I was the last to have the chance to choose the vacations, for example. Yes, you are right, Daniel. With the seniority, that privilege gets better and better. But when you are young
and you are starting in your work, and nevertheless you have responsibilities. And nowadays, with the different kinds of family members that we have, it's not the typical and the standard way of family, but youngsters are have other responsibilities as well. So it could be nice to find a way to support them and to give them the flexibility that they need in order to perform their job. And I am sure that they will thrive. I am really a supporter for youngsters joining us as well, and I really enjoy helping them when they join us. It is a passion for me as well. So this is a real worry, because some of them, I have several cases where they have other responsibilities than kids, and they need the flexibility, and sometimes it's very difficult to give them that possibility, even if they are really good in what they do. And that we all need to work to find a solution, to give more flexibility, to give them the space that they need to perform their job properly, and to show the management, in this case, their supervisors, that they can thrive in what they do. They just need the time to do it.
I'm known that I'm always being pragmatic, but also pushing people. So I like this topic because I was just recently posting something about seniority principle. I will get back to you. Maybe we schedule a dedicated session on that, because I think it's a huge topic.
Yes.
Which is affecting unions, but also if companies have to lay off people. If you have kids, you have more points than if you have no kids, and so on. So I think it's a huge topic, and maybe we can do something in the upcoming months for a dedicated aviation women panel. I will get back to you.
Sounds great. Thanks, Daniel.
I think it's a great moment to look at what we can do to combat these biases. We talked about what is happening to us, to women, to anyone actually. But so is there anything we can do? Let's take a look. So knowing that bias exists is not enough. We all are biased. In one way or another, we are all experiencing that. And so no one is immune to the biases, but we have work to do, and we can do something about that. So first of all, we need to react. When the bias occurs, we have to speak up in the moment. We have to say, we see it, it's happening, and we need to ask a question. We need to ask a probing question. We need to get an explanation that could help point to the root of the issue. When discussing it, we need to stick to the facts, because the facts, as you said very rightly, these are the things that speak. We need to stick to the facts, and we need to explain how bias is in play. But to change things that are so deeply rooted in our behaviors, we need to push for change. I'm very lucky to work with Celine, who's so energized every single day to push for change. That I have to say, it's not for everyone, not in everyone, but I think if we really try hard, we can find that energy to advocate for policy change, for process change. We just need to push harder. The issue is what happens if we are the ones that are biased. It's a tricky one, right? We need to first acknowledge that we do have biases. We have to educate ourselves to do better. So it's a constant work we need to do. We need to ask ourselves questions about our beliefs, about the values, and how these values that we thought are good, that we are good people, but how could these values limit us or enable biases against our colleagues at work? We should also let others challenge us more. We need to be open to challenging questions, to feedback, and instead of being defensive, which is a natural, I agree, it's a natural way of being, we need to be more curious and accepting. So we need to accept that feedback and use it as an opportunity to grow us as persons and grow our awareness. And finally, we need to embrace diverse perspectives that are not in our immediate network. So we tend to surround ourselves with people that we agree with, we think alike, we have the same values. We should grow our network. We should have opinions around us that are different. I'm sure Daniel can share his great experience at Lunch Club, which I'm yet to join. But that's one of ways to meet people who have absolutely no connection to you. And
yeah, I can strongly recommend to use it, because you are really breaking your own bubble. You're meeting people from all over the world, and you can really evolve, you can learn, and it's really an energy booster. And you can somehow create your own destiny by making use of the artificial intelligence driven matching of the lunch club talks. And by the way, we had also already 2 speakers from early aviation women panel, which I got to know via this platform. So that's really something where, if you want to break out from your bubble, Lunch Club is a good opportunity. By the way, we have some more questions here from Anne. Do you want to ask your question verbally?
Sorry, just unmuting. It wasn't really. It was just really an experience that I've seen in many airlines. I think I've seen it in at least 3 or 4 airlines, and it seems to be that the magic is that I just gave an example that it's really cool to hire lots of young guys, preferably not from the airline industry. And which is, you know, I'm all for a mix of people, and I think that's the only way to move forward. And I'm used to working with people from all nationalities and all sorts of age groups. But I've seen this happen in airlines, and then of course they really struggle. You know, the young guys from telecom, they struggle in finding the people who are going to help them, and because everyone they meet is going to say, no, we can't do that. We've always done it this way. So that's not possible. You can't, you know. And I see that they typically leave after 2 years. So it's just it's an interesting observation. And it's sad because, you know, recruitment is not that cheap.
Fatima, you made a comment regarding the post-pandemic working model and even making the problem larger for women, not being visible in the office if they stay home. But is it not rather also a chance for women working from home with their, let's say, communication skills to be more effective and better performers than working from home men?
Yes, indeed it is. Well, and I mean, I have this experience that I do a lot more while staying from home, while managing my agenda, and do 2 or 3 days at the office, or 1 day per week at the office, of course. My comment was more related to the fact that when we said that some men are going now to the office, you know, to have some communication with themselves, to have some lunch, to have some beers, some drinks, things like this, probably will contribute to have again, you know, a stronger relationship opportunity for them, and you know, discuss things, subjects, challenges that they would like to propose to the office and so on, and to the business that they are dealing with. And I've seen that. For example, my general manager, he said it's a time that we slowly go to the office. I see that only the men are coming more often than the women. They are staying. And in my company, many women are really young consultants, so they are mothers. They need to be home. They prefer to stay home. And my concern here is that, are we creating another distance between men and women with this or not? Of course, this is an opportunity for us to do more, to learn more, to improve, to let ourselves promote and show how we can do better, either home or in the office. But at the same time, this network, this connection, this is something that can, you know, reduce our visibility that we were being discussing since the beginning, like Celine said at the beginning.
Celine, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know, I went through that when I was myself a mother of young kids, and I decided to be to work part-time. So I was working 80%, which in reality I was working 100% or more, but in 4 days. It meant for me that I was not going to the office on Fridays, and I was missing the Friday lunch. And that Friday was the day where, you know, people in the team had more social events and less work, by the way. So I was also missing. I was trying to put all the hours in 4 days, so also missing coffee breaks on the 4
Happy
other
hours.
days. Yeah. So that's. But I would say that, you know, it feels unfair, and I really suffered from that, and it did pause my career for a while. I'm also proud that I made that decision for myself and for my own, you know, personal life, and for the life balance that I wanted to have. So yeah, it's true that it was at cost professionally, and I really hope that this is going to change.
Mhm.
But it's, you know, we can also say that some of our decisions we know are going to impact our ability to socialize, our ability to be in the discussion at the right time, or visible or considered. So we know that. And it's also a matter of choice. The world is unfortunately not perfect, so we have to balance that part. I think we need to change, you know, we need to try to push for that change everywhere we can. So having those type of discussions, just opening the mind, and trying to push in our own households that, you know, that it's not, we can share the burden of, you know, the kids, or the just the, you know, the housekeeping, saying, etc. And it's a lot of different, you know, change aspects that we have to push at the same time. Unfortunately, you're right, the COVID pandemic is having a very bad effect on gender equality on all spectrum, and all industry, in the workplace or not. More women are dropping, or more girls are dropping from school, more women are dropping from work. So we did go backwards. Now let's try, you know, individually, let's try to do whatever we can to change that. And if we have to be more visible, let's make sure we can be more visible. If we have to open a discussion to say, guys, you know, I'm, you know, struggling, trying to jungle with so many different things at the same time, just be considerate for that. And let's try to find, you know, a way to accommodate the new or the post-pandemic, you know, working hours, etc. But we are not going to change everything. We have also to accept that some of the choices that we are going to make will impact us negatively, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you for this comment. Arian, you made a very interesting comment, because you see the real problem now at the horizon with the Ukraine conflict. Do you want to elaborate what are your thoughts on that more in detail?
Well, I'm trying to get my head around this. And I think that what we see in general is more of our society not protecting us from people in power, and whether they are men or not enabling women properly, or in general, the people in power. And now we have another conflict in Europe, which is, I just read that we are now at 1.5 million refugees or so already. And it drives up energy prices. The energy prices for gas are 20-fold now. That will lead to real economical problems that we didn't see in COVID, because of the fact that COVID didn't come from economical factors, but high energy prices is a definite economic driver that will create huge economical problems on a worldwide scale. Now, if that starts to hit labor markets and recession with possibly the high inflation due to the COVID stimulus that we had, it will just be a messier place overall, and especially on the labor markets. And people in stress tend to be less open to things and more egocentric. And at this moment, I think at that moment, the people that don't have the power are probably the first to be hurt. And if we think that women are still not equilibrial when it comes to power, then they run a risk again. So like I said, I'm trying to wrap my thoughts around it. It's not very coherent yet, but I do see a problem there, and we have to keep the eye on the price, meaning that whatever lies ahead, we should never sacrifice our values that come to treating people based on their merits and equality, and as people foremost before any other label that we can stick upon them, whether that's black, brown, women, child, old, whatever. So yeah, it has to do with biases, but biases I think we need to understand that biases serve a purpose as well, and biases allow us to make decisions quicker, like we overcome them by thinking. The reason why we have them, it allows us to not think, and the more stress we endure, and with the less less time we have to think, the more we will fall back on biases again. So I think we see a challenge ahead, and we can only face that by trying to stay the course and focus on being human and respect individuals going forward. So sorry you shouldn't call me out. Like I said, I'm trying to get my head around it, but that's what I think about it more or less.
But I'm glad that we also have another male comment here in this ladies panel. Thank you.
Well, if that was my only redeeming quality, what I just said, I'll take it.
I was falling for the gender bias. Sorry for that.
No, good point, Arian. One more way we can try and break the bias is through mentoring. I am so convinced that mentoring can be a powerful tool to help break the bias because I'm part of the program, but I will let Emma explain the benefits of it.
Thanks, Justina. So for those of you who don't already know, Women in Aviation and Logistics launched a mentorship scheme earlier on this year. The idea came about because once we launched the movement for change, we realized just how many people there were out there who were willing to become involved, to share knowledge, to network, etc. And we also got feedback from women who were signing our pledge to say that one of the things that held them back is that it can be really tricky or difficult to find somebody that you can talk to who can maybe just encourage you or introduce you to other people who can help you, or just give you some confidence, or just someone to speak to so that you know you're on the right track. And we thought, well, actually, we've got a core of great people here, all of whom are willing to connect and get engaged with this with this scheme. So couldn't we just put together something where we introduce younger women who want some of that confidence, some of that networking, or maybe just have a question, who knows, with some of the people who have been around a bit longer and are able to share their insights, share their knowledge, share their network. We wanted it to be inclusive in the sense that the mentorship itself is for young women, to give them that positivity and that encouragement. But of course, the mentors can come from any men or women. So that this is not meant to be a girls' club or something like that. It's meant to be an opportunity for us to celebrate the goods that we've got and help and support people to get on. So as Celine explained at the beginning, this is very much a kind of volunteering situation with WELL. So Celine and Justina and I have definitely put a lot of hours into it, but it's not our full-time job, and we're not mentorship experts in that sense. So what we put together was a scheme which was kind of easy to access, easy to understand, not too onerous. So we only asked for an hour every month for 4 months, just to start off with, and that could be easily achieved with the goals set by the mentee and agreed by the mentor on an individual basis, rather than one of these big schemes that you have in a big company. So something much lighter, if you like, no less valid, but just lighter. But obviously the option was always there for people to spend more hours with their mentors and mentees if that worked out. The idea behind it is to, as I said, to give confidence. And Justina's made a nice slide here. I'm a bit less high level with this, but it's saying the same thing basically. So when we're talking about executive presence and personal branding and reputation, it's having that confidence in yourself, but then also having that confidence to put yourself out there so that you can get to those board level jobs, so that you are on the speaking podium, so that you do start to meet other people. And of course, as with many of these things, the more you do that, the more it's self-fulfilling and the more faster you can grow. I think also that with that mentorship, it is an opportunity to ask somebody who has got a lot of experience. You know, they've devoted an hour of their time to you, so it is an opportunity to ask those questions, which, you know, you might often have several of those questions in a day, or one question that you've been carrying around for a while, but you're not sure how to approach it or how to ask it. And in this background, you can ask it, and you can think about how that fits in with your career, with what you're going to do when you make a decision next time, etc. I mean, you've written power and influence. I think that it's all connected. So I think it's quite self-explanatory. We've got 26 pairs ongoing at the moment from all over the world, really. We are waiting until the end of April, by which time everyone will have had their 4 sessions. And then we will do a little feedback operation and see what works, what didn't work, where we can grow with this, how it might work rolled out in different industries even, who knows. And lots of you involved in logistics, so there might be different sectors where it could work. And hopefully do another wave of it towards the end of the year. In my experience in my career, I never had a formal mentor, but I definitely had people who mentored me as I came along the journey, as it were, and it really helped. So I guess this is was an opportunity to not completely formal, but not informal either, just to galvanize people and network them. For me, I think having support and access to information, access to networking is really the biggest piece, because, you know, the rest we have to do it ourselves, right? But if we're given the tools and the encouragement and the opportunity, and the rest is up to us, then that should be a good formula. Has anyone got any questions about the scheme or the idea behind it? Yeah.
Mariana.
Yeah. Hi, Emma. Hi. Thanks so much for talking about that. I just wanted to know exactly how we can get involved and what type of people you're looking for. I'm not sure if I would qualify as a mentee or a mentor, probably the first. But yeah, it would be great to hear a bit more about that.
Sure. So we have actually a website, which is womeninaviationandlogistics.org. And there's a page dedicated to the mentorship scheme in which it outlines the expectations for the mentor and the mentee. You also have access to see the list of current mentors that we have who are doing the project at the moment. I'm happy to say that we've actually got more people queuing up to be mentors. So we're expecting that, you know, there to be fresh blood, as it were, in the next round, as well as people who want to do it a second time. After that, you just need to click the button and apply. And all we want really is to understand your ideas on what you think you would get out of it, what you need, and how that would look for you and what you want to get out the other side. We do ask our mentees, or we will be asking our mentees, to give us some proper feedback, because we want to have, I'm not going to call it testimonials, but we want to understand, first of all, we want to understand which bits worked and which bits didn't. But we also want to make sure that we get a clear understanding of how it's working for each individual, so that we know we're doing the right thing in the next time, and that we're encouraging other people to do it. And that's basically it. There's the rest is at the moment down to Celine and Emma and Justina matching people and keeping it going. But so far, the feedback's all been marvellous that I've had. So really encouraging.
Perfect.
And you can ask Justina as well, because she is doing it. Justina is a mentee.
Yes,
I
I have to say my mentor is here, so I'm very happy. No,
I have to say what I like very much from this mentorship program is that the pressure is rather on the mentee, because they have to organize things. They have to really drive things. And that's what I like very much, because it's then also showing where is the mentee really trying to go, and you quickly also as a mentor, you can quickly see, oh, this is exactly where are maybe the skills and the talents, and where are maybe some potential areas for improvement. But I'm very inspired. So our conversations, Justina and mine, are very, very inspiring, also an energy booster. And as part of our mentorship program, she asked me to push her. So I pushed her today on stage, and she accepted to make a presentation. So as a mentor, I'm so proud of her today. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Daniel. I think what is also great about this is as we talked about, leaving our immediate network, our immediate circle to address, our perceptions, break the bias. This is one way, and I think it's a great one.
Yeah, I also had an example of another mentor whose mentee had quite a specific problem that he thought another mentor would be able to help in addition, and so they were able to connect in that way. That was to do with being a woman in the Middle East, basically. So that's kind of, not that it just gave that basically she got two for the price of one in that situation. But I think that was always the idea as well, that it's a network of people and knowledge that everyone's sharing, right? So if you identify a problem and you've got a solution to help that person, we can do it together.
I think that mentoring scheme is also one way to break the bias on both sides. So it's also a fantastic experience for the mentors, and this is what we have heard so far from the different mentors. And that's an opportunity to deconstruct existing biases. So I can only encourage all of you guys to consider joining the mentoring program, and just to answer a previous question. Even if you are young, you can be a mentor yourself, because we can always transmit something to somebody that is younger, and it's a great experience. We have one of our mentor that is also a mentee, so she plays the two roles. And I really believe that we don't need to have someone that has 20 years more than us to learn. We need to also have some proximity with the mentor that we have. So it's good to have all age, and even if you are a young professional, you can also transmit something to a younger professional, and you can get advice also from older professionals as well. Mentorship is also not just about age and experience. It's also about cross-functional type of mentorship, and that's also the way to de-silo the way of thinking, to open your mind, and also to break the bias once again. So it's very it's very relevant to that theme that we were covering today. So go for it.
So Justina, you are at the end of your presentation?
Yes, so we are closing. We still had a few questions from the registration for the discussion, but I see that we ran out of time. So I will let you, Daniel, close it.
So you have, thank you very much, Justina, Celine and Emma for this joint panel discussion. Again, energy booster for the rest of the day. Very well presented, Justina. I'm very proud as a mentor. So you made my day. And just to give you an idea what you can expect if you join Ladies Beyond Flying, we have every month aviation women panel. We invite leaders from the industry to talk about all topics around sustainability, digital transformation, the airline industry. And so next month, or next week already, we will have the CIO from LATAM Airlines Group speaking. And then in April, we have Ade Funke from IATA talking specifically about Africa. And then in May, we have Raquel from Play Air talking about low-cost airlines. In June, the executive chairman of IBS Software is talking about redefining the future of travel. And in July, we have Jessica Tyler from American Airlines Cargo talking about the air cargo transformation at American Airlines. And if you want to join also on stage, please get in contact with me. We have 4 basic criteria that you are admitted to our Ladies Club. You need to be smart, positive, upbeat, and enthusiastic. I think from the conversation today, the probability is almost 100% that all of you fit perfectly into Ladies Beyond Flying. And so I will check with Paulina on the next intermediate panel on this topic about younger people and people without children. I think that's also a very interesting topic for one of the upcoming Aviation Women panel. Is there one last question before we close?
Daniel, I was checking how the mentors are selected. Like, what is the way in which we select the mentors based on the criteria submitted by the mentees? How do you like correlate people based on geography, based on the kind of work, or what is it really?
So when we ask the mentors to sign up, we ask them to tell us what their interests and knowledge bases are, where they are in the world, all of those questions, and we ask something similar to the mentees. And so after that, we match as best we can to make sure that that's going to be a collaboration that works. But as I said at the beginning, we're not a professional scheme, so we do the best we can based on the selection that we've asked for. There is also a whole section on the website about what to do if it doesn't work out and how to exit peacefully with no problems, etc. So there's no friction.
Okay, and is there like a pre-conversation or something just to identify for some of the people, more like a help sort of a thing, wherein people who don't really know that what is it that they really need, like a lot of people would be clueless about the kind of things that they would need help with.
Yeah,
so I
sure.
think help
Sure. So in the form, when you fill it in, it guides you quite well to sort of have some clarity and some thoughts, but we're always open to having a phone call or something afterwards if you need to think about it a bit more. Done that with a couple of people, yeah, absolutely. But how it should work is that when you have that first meeting, you'll have to go through a process where you're asking for what you want and need, and that should give you both clarity to see how that's going to work out. It's not an exact science, for sure.
Sure. Daniel would help with the AI in future in that. But you guys are doing a great job. Thanks.
I'm a big fan of human intelligence, so I think that's still more advanced than in artificial intelligence.
I'm with you there, Daniel.
So I thank you all. It was really a very lively panel discussion. A lot of good questions, a lot of good answers. I think it was a fantastic International Women's Day. Please stay healthy and safe until we see each other next time. And I'm sure we will see each other next time. Thank you, Justina. Thank you, Emma. Thank you, Celine, but also all the other with your contribution to this panel. And yeah, I wish you a good rest of the day and hopefully talk to you soon again. Thank you.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
to you,
Thank you very
Daniel.
much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.